Good afternoon, all. Episode 10 of the Turn It Round the Corner podcast. I'm with Richard Elms. Richard Elms is founder and CEO of the BabyBallers group, franchise, whatever you want to call it. Award-winning children's author as well, bit of man of the people. We're sat in the car in the salubrious surroundings of Southend United training. Rich, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Thanks for giving up your time. So, for anyone out there that don't know, let's start with your day job. BabyBallers obviously learn through play. For young boys and girls wanting to learn sort of the basics of the game and teamwork and colours and just first steps in just exercise, really, I suppose. So, do you want to explain to the listeners about BabyBallers and how you set it up and what it's all about?
Yes, mate. So effectively, BabyBallers is an introduction to football. I don't like to call it a football class, a football club. It's an introduction to a football about getting active. That's my promotion behind it. Getting children active, parents active. Obviously, we're so easy now to kind of do nothing, right?
Yeah.
As a parent as well, there's so many challenges. So when I set it up, and I did set it up as a hobby, my little boy, who was at the time 18 months, I just wanted to get engagement with parents and get people running around. It's effectively a learning through play program for 16 months to 5 years, right? So it's we use colours, shapes, numbers, and obviously introduce the football into that as well. I don't like calling us a football club though. I just want it to be about parents getting their children active, and if they come out of it at the age of 5 and love football, then obviously it's the full package as well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we turned it into a franchise in 2017.
So when did it actually start? When did you start this out?
I started as a hobby. What's French? 11. I started it with him when he was 16 months. So that was about 2015.
Yeah.
And then that was just the first club. It was on a Saturday morning, a couple of hours. I rocked up, didn't know really what I was doing. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And parents loved it, and kids loved it more. And yeah, that was the first one. And then I tried times that I didn't think would work. So Mondays afternoon, like 4 o'clock. Thinking parents ain't going to be bothered about this start of the week. Want to go and just get ready for their week. Don't want to be running around a hall with their little ones, because they are parent participation classes. And then I tried a Friday afternoon, thinking they're going to want to put their feet up, have a glass of wine, relax. They all sold out. And then through my brother, I got who's in franchising. He said this would be a great franchise model, like the brand, everything like that. And then we grew from there. From 2017, it was officially franchised, I'd like to say, with the appropriate things you need to be a franchise model.
Sure. So for someone that doesn't know the sort of the franchise model or sort of that part of a business, explain to someone how that would work.
It's mad, isn't it? Like, because I talk to people like franchise, everyone would know franchise, but actually it's not. A lot of people don't. So a franchise model is effectively people buying a business in a box, right?
Yeah.
They're taking your brand, which they love. And then they love it, how it operates, the concept of it. You're giving them all the tools to be able to go and run it. So it's, imagine someone coming to me about a canvas of no knowledge of business or anything, and us basically going, here it is, this is what you do, these are the assets. Basically 30 through contacts, 30, 40, maybe 50% of the early stage is all done for you, and that's the benefits of having it. But also you're joining a wider network of people, contacts, and assets that you might not have if you're just going to go and run. And we're a low cost franchise, right? Some franchises reach, look, the pinnacle of franchising is McDonald's.
Yeah. And that's how I really learned about the franchise model years ago.
If whoever's listening to
McDonald's,
this, if you want to watch
Subway
if you want to watch a film, which I've watched about 5 times, and it's just a quality film, it's The Founder, and that's about McDonald's. It's unbelievable.
So it's like a hybrid football business talk today. So people are getting value for money. So you started it obviously to coach your boy. You started it as a single class. How then did you turn that to the franchise model, and then obviously looked at growing that across?
Well, it's funny actually. Like, the actual first person that got involved before we were a franchise model, right, was someone who worked for a rival company. Come over and said, I really like your brand, looks wicked. Can I run one of your clubs? Me being me, or was staying by Branson in there. If you don't know how to do it, say yes, work it out later. So I went, quality. I'll tell you what, you run it, I'll come and collect 15% of the money.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what we did. She done that, and I just winged it until I got advice and the things that you need to do legalities wise to actually be classed as a franchise model.
Yeah.
And then just got the right marketing out there, and we had a good. I think since then it's changed, right? The whole football industry, like, and franchising has changed in regards to now. There's so many businesses in football, right? There's so many. You've got these academies. You've got JPL that's developed since then.
100%.
You know, there's so much stuff that goes on. It's mad to think what it was only that amount of time. JPL went around. It might have been on a small level, but you know,
I basically hadn't heard of JPL until the last couple of years, and then obviously it's exploded. But once you had that thought of turning it into a franchise model, so how did you start growing that model from a BabyBallers perspective?
I mean, if you look, it does have a knock-on effect. Once you have a few, you're seeing franchise models, right? It has a knock-on effect. My first bunch of franchisees were effectively people that went to clubs or friends of people that went to clubs. And if you look at our map on our website, you'll see a big collection of areas that are just
a little
clusters, right? And that's effectively how it works, how we grew. We did franchise shows where you'd spend a lot of money to go and stand in like the NEC, or you stand in, and that's where we obviously we'll come on to it. But we're in Belgium. That's where we got the Belgium contact. That took a year to effectively get over the line. But yeah, it was just through people seeing the brand. I was winging it. I ain't gonna lie. It was, you know, I was winging it for a long time, and it just grew. It's more challenging now than ever, and the whole football world is challenging now than ever.
Yeah, and I think like there's no shame in saying that. Like I come out of traditional banking maybe 12 years ago, been in the fintech space and growing and scaling and getting business sold. Like a lot of those early days, you are running around. There is a little bit of winging, but you learn as you go, right? And then you work out what worked well, and you kind of, you know, put some processes around that. Exactly. And if it doesn't work very well, then you reassess and, you know, go again. So let's talk about then. So you started to grow, and obviously at first was it more just, as you say, focus on friends and family and contacts, and then how did you go from, say, that to having people inbound you to ask, you know, to ask, I don't know, I want to set up a club in XYZ and going about that?
It was the marketing tools that we put out. There's Franchise Direct, which obviously pings like somewhere in Birmingham we're at, or York, for instance, or you know, that has that effect. But to start, it was obviously not friends and families. It was people that attended. I had 5 clubs when I started, and they were all very busy. And I'd like to
all locally around the south end, sort of Essex area.
Chelmsford, Essex, Chelmsford, Lee, Rayleigh, Basildon, South Woodham. So I was operating them, and it had a knock-on effect with people to go. But then obviously, you can only go so far with that, right? And then it is about, right, well, where do we hit? What sort of where do we market? Facebook is a bit of a waste of time, in my opinion, because you get a lot of people flicking through on a Sunday, and you can do ads on there, but they go, "Oh, it looks good. Put my name down. Don't really have much interest in it. Don't hear from them again." People through Google Ads are often the strongest, which helps us grow because they're specific. Toddler football franchise, football franchise, or what you'll come up, or obviously through general directories like Franchise Direct, you get a lot of people through. So it just scaled from people, like, you know, it was nice to think from my point of view. Jesus, I'm about to swear that I won't. From my point of view, for
your little dream,
for an idea that I had, to just be like, well, I'm going to take your product and I'm going to go and run it in Northern Ireland.
Sure.
You know, and that was probably one of my bigger successes out in Northern Ireland. It was, you know, in regards to the people that took it on were quite reputable people, and what they wanted to do, and they bought the whole of Northern Ireland.
Right.
And bear in mind, and it's not about financially, but bear in mind I had no money. I mean, I actually started BabyBallers, and this is now about £100.
Yeah.
So it's quite, for me, a proud moment, and I'm not afraid to say now I've got to the stage where I'm not struggling, but I'm talking. I find it difficult, where I was doing this all on fun and enjoy it. Now there has to be. It's at a size where it's a serious size, and there has to be really strong processes involved, and I find you're good at what you're good at, and if you try and step out, you can do your best, but sometimes it's better to have people that are good, right?
Sure.
So yeah, sorry, I digressed a bit there, mate. But I'm just that's pretty much how it went and how it grew. It became. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, someone got in contact with me that I knew years ago," and he went, "Jesus, didn't know you. I know this. He lives in Watford," and it was quite a nice feeling to have it. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I've still got a lot to do.
Yeah. So how many clubs right now have you got in the UK?
In the UK, we're ticking on to about 83 clubs.
Right.
That's over 200 classes delivered to over 4,500 kids at the moment.
Yep.
Just under that. In the Northern Ireland, we've got 6 clubs, but they're in agreement to do 3 a year in 10 years. So
right.
they do. So we develop them on that side. And there's 44 clubs over in Belgium that are all successfully running. Great guy over there that runs that. And then we've moved into the Australian market, but it's a slow burner really at the moment. However, we're working. You do these things because sometimes these are all mistakes, right? And I'm not saying going to Australia is a mistake. Probably too soon to go into Australia,
right?
Because there's lots of legalities that you didn't look at. Me being me, quality. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Get an agent out there, do all that. But then we're like, well, there's lots of legalities. They do everything right in Australia, don't they?
Yeah.
So, not like us in the UK. But yeah, it's good. It is good. I just, I think my passion for it all was really about the challenges that I'm always an active parent. I know, Christian, you're a really active parent as well. The thought of sitting down and doing nothing with your little one, I used to find quite. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So for me, getting out with your little one and doing something was something all parents should do.
100%.
And put that effort into. That's why it's parent participation. That's why there's no pressure on the ability of football. It's about getting out, getting an environment, doing something with an energetic coach, and delivering something back where 40 minutes you can come away and go, do you know, he really enjoyed that. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I got something from it, and that's what I wanted to create.
So before we sort of dig into the details of maybe like your role now and what you're doing, and say the actual sessions themselves, what are your plans for expansion? So if we talk UK first, and then maybe rest of the world, rest of Europe.
Yeah, we were talking not long ago recently, and my plan is to continue the franchise growth.
Yeah.
But also, I am looking in the UK to do internal clubs.
Right.
So it gives me a bit back of what I used to do, right? Yeah. So we have the franchise-owned clubs where we can effectively find head coaches, run it. So I want to do like 10, 20, 30, 40, potentially 50 clubs there, scattered around the UK. Okay. So that's how I'm planning on expanding here. We're also going to go to an even younger age called crawling to walking. Obviously, it's not going to be about the football as much, sensory, but it's going to be involving football products, but we're going to make it real basic, and it is again. I'm going to.
So what's it called, Rich?
Messy Ballers.
Messy Ballers. So that's breaking news, yeah? Is that a
crawling to walking, mate?
Yeah.
It's so we're going to have messy ballers. Moving on to the baby ballers class, 16 months to 2.5. Yeah. Mini ballers, 2.5 to 3.5, and then ballers 3.5 to 5. Okay. And then we might look at something else other than that. Right. But so that's how I'm planning doing what we're doing here. Going to generate more revenue for all the clubs, as well as a lot more access to them to do midweek clubs, because this ages aren't at school. So it's going to be one of them. It's going to be very active for parents, so which is the aim. If you don't like being active, don't come.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the plan.
Is there anywhere, would you say, abroad that you'd want to look at, or you just concentrate on growth in the UK first and go from there?
No, there is obviously Spain. It definitely is where I want to move into. I think there's a market there. Our actual head franchisee over in Belgium is interested in Holland.
Yeah.
So we're looking to do there. I think with it, you can't rush it too much. So I think if I had my way, we'd do country to country, and then it organically grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the plans. Europe, and I really, because we've got a footfall in Australia, and we've got the agent, and we have all relative things that you need, although there are certain extras. Australia is one that we're going to really tick onto. It's an expensive project, Australia, but
but I think obviously if you listen to the last episode 9, like you had Tom Laxton on from the Queensland FA, like Australia is so vast and so big. Like if you manage to have success in Australia, like that would just I think it'd kick the business on to another level. So you touched on a little bit around the age groups and sort of the different categories. So talk to me now then about those categories and what kids, what age kids can come, and I'd say what are the differences between each class. So you just went through, you've got baby ballers, mini ballers, and ballers. So do you just want to give the listeners an indication of the differences?
Yeah. So 16 months, the baby ballers class is 16 months to 2. We don't put much emphasis on that age group. For them we make it. We don't put emphasis on them. They must use their feet all the time, right? But the simple progression really through these age groups is having the ball first. Yeah. Moving with the ball. If they can strike a ball off a comb, then that's great, right? Yeah. Because then the next step is to try and use their feet in the mini ballers. Yeah. So these are simple progressions without using all the equipment. The simple progression is their hands is okay.
Yeah.
Mini ballers, using your feet and your hands is the kind of next step.
Yeah.
Ballers, we're going to just try and use our feet.
Sure.
So if we can get to the age of 5 and we can actually dribble the ball with like tiny kicks, and we can strike a ball, all the technical side is going to come after. That's the basics of how we look at it, right? So babies, we will encourage using their hands, and if we can encourage them to kick it off, strike it off a cone, or just strike it off the floor, great. The minis, we're going to encourage them to strike it, and kick the ball with their feet. And then the olders, we will get them to try and use their feet a little more. That's the development without any equipment, right?
Sure.
If you just have them a ball in a hall.
So just moving them from like very heavily assisted to try and doing it on their own.
Do you know what, Christian? I'll tell you a mad story, and obviously I hope they're not listening, because I don't actually know who it is. But we once had someone asking for one-to-one football sessions for their 18-month-old kid.
Nothing surprises me anymore.
That's mad. When I saw the email come across, I was like, this can't be serious. This guy is not serious. But this is the world that I don't like anymore. It becomes, I don't like anymore, but it becomes that for me. I look at that as he's a project for you. This should eventually be a project for him if he loves the sport. If you're getting your kid to do a one-to-one session at the age 18 months, the kid don't even know what a ball is yet.
That's Project Mbappe taking it to a whole new level. So you talk about like parent participation.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of parents would take their children normally to like kids club that maybe it's a chance for them to have a breather and get a coffee, right? What's the difference in baby ballers and obviously sport related? You want them parents involved, right? Especially at the younger ages.
Yeah,
they're not going to be able to do that on their own, are they?
No, in the younger ages, it's the most important thing like ever. But there's a lot. There's lots of reasons why I want it. Of course, it's naturally parent participation, because any parent that's sitting there and watching their kid just running around, it's pointless, isn't it? Right?
It's also not helping everyone else in the class, right?
So you put a session out like cones, like we'll give you maybe you have obstacle. We do an obstacle corner game. You put that out, and the kid just comes and destroys it. If the parents just watching, then unfortunately, it has something else to be said. But the reason I'm going to tell you a little something that happened not long ago. A child's dad emailed in and cancelled, right? For no other reason that he was moving to another area.
Yeah.
But he sent out an email saying, I just want to say thank you. When I first joined Baby Ballers, my little one only ever wanted his mum.
Yeah.
Right? Since coming to Baby Ballers now for 3 years, I have now built such a bond with him that he sees me as something that we're going to do something special together.
Yeah.
And for me, that was so good, because that was, even though he cancelled, and obviously no one wants to sing and dance about a cancellation, but that for me was perfect, right? That's a perfect combination.
It's great feedback, that
100%, because he's come out. He might not like football, but he's come out. He even said he doesn't always get involved, but me and him, we used to made a bond, and that is something that goes beyond football, because now they've found something that he's got a relationship for me, something 40 minutes a week, and I was like, perfect. That's the be all and end all, And if they come out with that bond, social skills, and a love for football, that's your full package, right?
And then remember that, like we laugh and joke in our family. Like when I moved down here, I started taking my boy. He wasn't that young, but I started taking Bert to like football lessons when he was young, whatever it was. And you had to get involved, and obviously sometimes I'd be away travelling with work, and like Shara would take him, or my mum would take him, or like his granddad would take him, and like Bert still talks about, oh, do you remember when I put Nanny in goal, like for penalties? And they're still, so it is good for the kids to have their memories, right? And
massively.
so, talk to me then, Rich. Like you can, let's start with the babies, obviously, because that's their first interaction with a ball and maybe just any exercise, right?
Yeah.
Up to then, it might just be baby classes or with mum and dad, whatever. So, talk to me about a sort of a tradition, not traditional, but like a stereotypical baby baller session that a kid and a parent could take part in.
Okay, so we like have a bit of structure to the session, right?
Yeah.
So I always got a bit of feedback from other companies what they did, and I was
Yeah.
like, right, I'm going to try to make it as structured as we possibly can. Not all of our franchisees use it, just to make that standard.
Before
point.
I ask you about before you go like elaborate a little bit there, like structure with kids, how hard at that age group is it to keep to that structure? And
really hard. The only way you can do it is by repetition.
Okay.
So we use what I would call a magic line, right? That magic line. Imagine that if you're using a badminton court, sports hall, the baseline of that badminton court is your magic line. Okay. I used to have 18-month-old kids walk in, and we always do a free play before a session, right? Sure. So 4 minutes where they'd smash a ball around with the parents. And you always get that busy parent that's going to try and whop it in top bins, and wipe out.
Take out someone nanny,
But we used to have an 18-month, a number of them used to come in, trot in, just go and sit down on the magic line at 18 months, and the kid can barely talk. So for me, that's like, does work. Repetition of something does work. They do install it.
I think, like, I know you're going to talk about it being a kid's play and not too much about football, but I think in football anyway, repetition is massive, right?
Massively.
And if, like, you always use the line, repetition will, in a game, you'll just do it seamlessly. But that's why, for me, always, repetition does work, but you have to be doing it correctly. Because if you're not being coached correctly or you're not doing it correctly, that repetition also would just become bad repetition as well. So repetition, I think, in any sport or work, whatever, always works.
Repetition, I think, is huge. There was a story about Beckham, wasn't there, where he used to go out with his dad, right, and he used to just literally, his dad used to stand behind the goal, right, and he'd be on the edge of the box, bag of balls, ping, ping, every day, ping, ping. I mean, there's no coincidence why he had such a sweet strike on him, right? It's repetition of doing the same thing over and over and over and again.
Mate, I always tell the story of Luke Young, So Luke Young's probably my only mate out of our group that made it to that top level and played for England. He said, I can't remember where they played. So Luke had a spell where in one of the qualifying campaigns where we had like Ireland and Wales in our group, Neville was injured, and he said they played somewhere and it was day of the game and they trained for half an hour and everyone got back on the bus. They said Beckham got back off the bus with 2 bags of balls. He just said he stood there for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Everyone top corner, and no one said anything. If it was anyone else, they said, oh, they'd have been giving him abuse or like, come on, we want to get back to the hotel, we want to have lunch. But everyone just sat there in amazement, like he just put one after the other, top corner.
And there's
no coincidence that it works, right?
Yeah, so in the baby baller, you scale it right down now. If you do repetition in whatever it is, they get it, right? And they pick it up. And then if they're good habits, then it's a good repetition.
Yeah.
Right?
So they come in, bit of messy play.
Yeah, go mad, make a mess. We then always encourage them to tidy it all up.
Yeah.
Right. So it's again, and in the end, that's
good habits.
Enjoy tidying it up, putting it back in the butt. We'll then go through a session where it is just movement based, no balls. We'll just get them moving, whether it's different animals, different things.
Like a sort of scaled down kiddie warm up.
Exactly.
Right.
Imagine we're doing high knees or whatever, or a lot of dynamic movements. They're being crocodiles.
Yeah,
it's still the same. Yeah. I know it's very, very different, but. So we're getting moving around. We'll then move on to what I call baby ball mastery, right? Because obviously ball mastery, which everyone knows in the coaching game, is basically manipulation of a football.
Sure.
You aren't going to get a 16-month-old kid doing step overs. No. You're not going to get them doing drag flicks. So you've got to move it. My way my brain works. Well, let's move it really basic. Can they do simple things like they're learning parts of their body? Can they put the ball on their nose?
Yeah.
Can they put the ball on their ears? Can they put their head on it? Can they sit on it? Right, these are all. So that's my version of it, or the version that I created. We then move on to what I call the learn through play game. Is what with the tagline that we've got underneath our logo. The learn through play game is cornered game, really simple. Every little one has a ball.
Yep.
We'll move them. I'll give you a really simple one. Obstacle game. Each corner has an obstacle. Each corner has an obstacle.
Yep.
They might have to strike from go and find the red cone, strike from that red cone to try and knock down a red traffic cone.
Okay.
Right, and just move around different obstacles. There might be something, I don't know, for maybe the minis in each corner will have a shape. So out of the disc, we'll make a triangle, out of the corner, a bit square, out of a corner. These are real simple. They're just going around each corner.
Sure.
And this is the part where you can progress it for minis. You can get them to they can make sure they strike off the ball. If they can use their feet to dribble it, great, no pressure. Babies, again, no pressure. They can use their hands. Ballers, we're going to get them to encourage them to use their feet. So that's that part. We'll get them to tidy up the mess that they've made.
Sure.
We then move on to like a main session of a game, which is what I try, and there is a limit, like their imagination game, right? So we'll get them using their brain. And this is all operated from that magic line still, right? The reason they go there, you'll find that 18-month-old kids will listen once they sit on something and everyone else does the same thing.
Sure.
And I think if I was a parent, I'd be looking at it and going, all right, see what's happening here. He's recognising that we are about to be spoken to, so I must try and be quiet.
Yeah.
And attempt to listen. Like you don't get 16 months. It's
good habits, even for preparing them for like nursery and school.
Exactly.
Right? It's getting them in good habits.
Good habits, and they will pick it up. Like it's amazing. Like I said, the brain of a child that age is easily manipulated. So you can train
Sure.
kids to be, to listen. If you do bad habits in front of them, they'll do bad habits.
Sure.
That's the bottom line. So then we'll go into the game, which is like imagination based. So we might create this game where it's real simple. It's not like, this isn't tech stuff. This is the traffic cones might be rockets. We'll get them and we'll build a game. So your babies, we actually get them to match colours. So like pads, for instance, and then strike them balls and try and knock down them rockets, try and knock them off, or put balls on them, try and strike them off. But it's got a progressive stage where they build the cone, place the ball, knock it down, and then go through to the stage where they're scoring in each goal. Right?
Yeah.
That will take about 15 minutes, and then we'll get them again. The last tidy up time, they've made all the mess. We're encouraging them to tidy it all up, and then we'll finish with like a penalty. And we do attempt with the ballers' age, we'll attempt a little game so they can feel what a little environment has. Because when my boy was 5, he used to come training, and he went to go into a game. And at that time, I wasn't doing games with that age group, and he had no idea what was going on. Like it was like, like standing there, like just ball come, strike it. So ballers' age, we do try and encourage a little game now. Sometimes we finish on penalties again, but a little game environment with no pressure.
So given like the sort of progression that you spoke about, and as you say, maybe moving from really assisted to doing it on their own.
Yeah.
Let's just say we did have Project Mbappe at 16 months, whatever. is it fluid enough to sort of like move between the sort of levels without like being that age? As I say, you had a freakishly good 18-month-old. Like, is it just about sort of the age, or can you move up and down with the ability?
You can move up and down with the ability. We used to have a lad that was 2.5, and he was much more developed than everybody else. Right. Which leads me, actually, I could have a massive conversation about this whole thing. Biobanding fascinates me. Do you know about biobanding?
Explain. I think as our exposure to, should we say, academy football, obviously your boy was at Southend, obviously Bert was at Orient, like that is a conversation that I think generates a lot of interest. So there's probably a lot of people outside of I suppose the academy world that don't know, so please elaborate on biobanding.
Biobanding, I think, is the way forward, not ages. Right? So biobanding is basically based on your size of the parent. You get a predicted age of your child of development. Yeah. I've read a lot of articles. There's a great one that I could share with you. It's from a guy from Bath University that I read recently, and he's saying loads of children are being overlooked and potential stars based on their size and their speed. And it's so basically how it works is they'll take the father. You take there's actually a thing that you can fill out that gives you actually the age. Father, size of your mother, and then the weight and size of your child right now. Yeah, that will give you an age, right, effectively of what he's operating at now in development stage, or she's operating at that. I did one on my son. My son's 11. He's got a bio age of actually at 9. Yeah, right, which really interests me because he's coming up against kids that are probably on an age of 13. Yeah. So where's the level of you know, he's one stride. It's my boy's three strides.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's like, how is his development being missed there when he could play in a level where he's at his right age? And I think that's a whole nother concept in itself where we should be looking at that. Where I think there's a lot of talent that potentially goes missing. Like I would say, your boy Willow, that is, I think he's at his right age, right? I might be wrong, but you can look at that and go, actually, this is where he fits in. There's too many things and benefits. The confidence of that kid, right? Not that he's going to be the best, but he might be up against kids that matches his size and strength, so he develops better. Confidence rises, feels better, and by the time he gets to 18. You know, it's just a lot.
I think it's a really interesting argument. There was a couple of academies. I think West Ham even hired one of Klopp's former backroom staff. There was a lot of talk in academy football the last couple of years about going to a more European model. So European model, for instance, would be, you know, our boys play under 12, for instance, right? Whereas in Spain, like for instance, my son is an under 12, but like, he's basically 2 weeks off playing under 11s because he's mid of August, right?
Yeah.
So in like a lot of European countries, they play like the 2012s and the 2013s. But then there was more talk about this bio banding. I think I'll give you an example. A good friend of mine in Harlow, Ryan Jesse, two twins. You know, they've had, I'd say, difficulties about size in academies. They've played at a few teams, really good technical players, and you know, they are small for their age, and like in their youth teams at Charlton and Orient, they're both at Arsenal. The kids are massive. The boys are growing now. I think they've reached that age where they're growing, but you know as well as I do, some of them kids in academy football now, like they're bigger than us, right? So my only I would say caveat or sort of pushback on it, I would do it, right? Don't get me wrong, because I think going through an academy system and seeing your child, like, I would let Bert play down. I would say though, is there sort of an arrogance to it to say no? Because I'll be perfectly honest. When Bert first went into the academy system, they said he's so young. Like there's a lot of academies, they will only take kids born in the first quarter. So the year that Bertie went into sort of Leighton Orient pre-academy, the people that run it before, they'd only look at kids in September, October, November. No one else, because for that reason, right? The size, the strength. So I originally, it wasn't until like your discussion here about banding and age and size, suddenly I thought, actually, if he was asked to play a year below, I would probably allow it. Like, whereas at first I'm like, no, he's playing on the 12s. He's under 12, he's playing. But I do think your argument for missing out is 100%. That part of it, I think, is 100% correct. What I don't think, like, people have that mindset sometimes that now he's got to play his own age group, right? But I think if they'd done it that way, it would give the smaller kids, or even the kids that are not confident, right? It'll give them that little bit of time to develop. Because I think football now is going bigger than, like, the last year that Bertie was at Leighton Orient, I've never seen so many big kids. And it weren't just at Leighton Orient, everywhere you went. Millwall, Northampton, every sort of club we went to, you know, even the I would say the Cat Ones, where Bertie's first year at pre-academy, for instance, the Spurs and the Arsenals and the West Ham, they were all small technical kids. Like, by the time he finished last year, they're all big, strong boys. Like, that, you could see that there'd been a lot of changes. And to your argument, I think Millwall, Charlton, there was 3 or 4 academies this summer. I think I remember calling you to speak about this. That quite a few academies talking about looking at your size. Obviously, if your boy's in academy, normally 6 to 8 weeks, they're tested, aren't they? They do the height, they do the jump, they do all that. Like, there was a lot of 3 or 4 academies in the summer that they worked out that you weren't going to be 5'11". They got released, which is like unbelievably crazy for an 11, 12-year-old kid, right?
Mad.
But I think
if you see a kid, right? See, I look at it like this, and I'm not just saying this because I've got a small kid, and we've completely digressed off of the work.
No, but it's an interesting argument. Like that, and this
conversation.
is what the podcast is about, talking football, right? So,
like, if you take a small child with technical ability,
yeah,
right, and a good football brain,
yeah,
but not the speed and the strength,
yeah,
he's easily developed. You can develop as a coach.
Yeah.
You can develop him, I believe, into a strength that other people won't have.
Yeah.
If you're going to keep getting knockbacks because you're just not the size, you're missing out. And this is what this article says that I read. They're missing out on what could be. So I think look, there's probably many arguments against it, but I think there's a lot of arguments for it. And I think it's like it's mad to think that Bert is could be in under 11s.
Yeah.
Right. And he'd boss it.
Yeah. And the difference being as well, like, I think half of his team I think there was 3 or 4 kids September and October. And like I couldn't never get my head around it, probably till I've read some stuff like you. And Charlotte, like, was always like, he's developed 11 months after them. So probably by the time they're kicking a ball, he's not even been born yet.
No,
and
exactly.
when you think of it like that, it's completely different. But I think that's a really good sort of panel discussion to have.
Yeah, I think it should be brought to people
with people. But so the kids in their classes. So you've talked about a sort of an outline of what these classes evolve, and then how does that sort of change over time? So the longer the kids there, you're doing different stuff every week.
Yeah. So we will do different sessions every week, try and develop it. Obviously we do sometimes repeat sessions, like any coach do, but kind of have programs. There's some people choose to like use it like a 10-week program, right? And then use it again, but maybe different, change it up a little bit.
Sure.
Which there's nothing wrong with it. I think actually there's a lot to be said with older coaching that actually everyone has a syllabus, but they'll work on something they should do.
Yeah.
Like for 4 to 6 weeks and do it over again. So ours is no different. It's even though it's very basic, very not technical, but it's having that syllabus and doing it, using it and using it again, or keeping to that program and then doing it again after that 10 weeks. There is nothing wrong in doing that because the repetition again, right, and doing the same thing. So when they get to 5, a lot of our club owners, they'll look for a potential outlet for them to go to a proper little club, because obviously it's only under 6, only 2 years until they go into football if they want to.
So what are you talking there? So that, like, let's just say a BabyBallers Leon C, for instance, they'd set up an association with a little club locally for the boys and girls to carry on.
Yes, we've got a number of franchisees that have links to. Actually, one's just sponsored one, and they've got a program from 5 and all the way through to adults.
Brilliant.
So when that child hits 5, instead of, I don't want to call it this, but when they get to 6, it would be a disservice really for us to keep them. It wouldn't be fair unless we progress into that older age group. We'd be doing, I don't like that. I want them. It's look, obviously it's a business. It's about making money, but it's also very much about having a child that develop and getting the best for them. So we'd be doing a disservice by just keeping them and doing these sorts of sessions.
Yeah. It's
about getting them then into a club, and so they can then progress into under 7s, which obviously when it starts.
Yeah.
And Sunday morning grassroots games, and getting them into there. And that's the process. I have had people say to us that when they come to us at 5 from us, they're a lot more developed than a 5-year-old that's never strike the ball before. So that for me, it shows that it works. I've also heard that they're better behaved, listen better, and understand the concept of being in a football environment, training kind of world.
Yeah. So I'm going to hold that point and ask you and come back to it. But so just on that then. So what would you say are the sort of like key takeaways, transferable skills that these kids are going to learn by doing BabyBallers and going through the system?
Discipline.
Yeah.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Because we do these penalties where they come out on their own.
Yeah.
Confidence. Some basic football skills.
Yeah.
Team environment.
Yeah.
Right.
Massive.
Understand working with other children because they have to share.
I think that's one of the best transferable skills you can have.
100%. Definitely. And The discipline side is understand when it's like your turn or your go.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, listening, which is huge, right? I've coached 5-year, 6-year-olds, and you do get a lot of kids that just want to smash a ball around. There is nothing more frustrating because you're
yeah.
like, especially when you're in grassroots, you're not getting paid. It's only a
No.
job. You're doing it for free,
Yeah,
and you've got a kid smashing a ball around. So it installs them things. That's on the actual personal side, like mental side.
yeah,
The other things is obviously the football side of things.
yeah.
Yeah, they've got a use of a football. They've been
100%.
introduced to a football, um, and they've done it in an environment where you've got goals. You've given them little tasters of what matches feel like, very basic
Yeah,
tasters, and you've understood the basics. If they can walk away from us with knowing how to dribble a football, be
yeah,
it slow, fast, whatever it might be, and also strike a ball, not in a not worrying about technique, then our job's done. So, but the
yeah,
main thing is them fight and a bond, right? They've walked away with a bond with their
yeah.
parents, right? So that's the
So you're building the foundations. But coming back to your point, like Bert's under 17 when we first started. Yeah, they were an okay team. They weren't Real Madrid, but
no,
they've been like games before, and I'd see the other kids warming up, and I'd say to Bert's manager, "This would be a massacre today." He'd be like, "How do you know that?" And I'd just like, "Look." Because you can see in that under 7 season, there's the boys that have say gone through baby ballers and like then you put them into a club locally. They've all sort of gone through that system and learnt the right fundamentals, right?
yeah,
And you've also got teams at under 7s that Rich and Christian have just turned up for the first time. They've got a kit, but they've never played football before.
yeah,
And you can see it, right? You can just see the difference, as you say, the kids that have learnt the fundamentals. And it might obviously it's the football, but it also might be listening to the coach. Rich, you're going to play at the back and do what I ask you to do. There you go.
How many kids do you hear of like being released or from clubs about bad attitude, with having a terrible attitude? Right, so that's a big part of it, right? They want to see a kid with a good attitude and confident.
Yeah,
right. It's a big part of it. So we're trying to install that every Saturday morning or Sunday morning or wherever it is, 40 minutes. That them sort of things, even though it's done subtly, friendly, fun, but we are installing that these good attributes to have in life. And it's only 40 minutes, right? So we're not crash, but it's something that does go in.
But I think it's massive. Like one of the points you touched on there, like I think for kids these days, listening's a massive point. You've probably done it to your son. Like when a manager shouts out to my son at times, like Bertie gets really nervous. So I know he's listening, but even just to say, "Yeah, I've got it," but like that environment that you're teaching them, you're teaching them that environment to actually follow instructions and then okay that. I think that's
and it takes time with these age groups. It's harder.
Yeah.
It's hard because they don't understand what anything is.
No.
Right? So you are literally grafting each week, but the parents are there to. The parents will do every. First of all, they don't want their child to look like he's the naughty child.
Yeah, of course.
So they will do it as well. So all of a sudden, like sometimes like, oh, you never act like this at home. What's going on?
Yeah. But and I think it's great. So when the children like have come through this system and they get to ballers and off they go, like is there in a way is that's you're putting people out there though that are, or would you call them like sponsors in a way, right? Because you like in your role and franchises, like word of mouth and good experience is massive, right? So is that something that you think that you flourished through that word of mouth and like good feeling?
What you mean in regards from us as coaches and me as a franchise, or are you talking about in regards
just the more like the positive effect when like the kids gone through the system, they've been great, like the sort of knock-on effect, like then they bring the next child and so on and so forth.
100%. I mean, it's rewarding to hear that children have got a real strong. Okay, loads of kids have strong love football. I get it, but it's nice to hear of I've got a little boy, and I don't mind mentioning him. He's called Teddy, who come to me when he was 16 months. He's just been signed by Ipswich under 9s, right? And he messaged us and said, "Thanks so much for." In fact, we did a post on him. Yeah. He's a top lad, great little boy, and he listened and he was intent. His attitude was good, and he come constantly. And I'm not saying that you could see that he could strike a ball at that age.
Sure.
But he loved it, and he took on I hope he took on the principles, and I hope that some of the principles he's taken now to what he does, what he's at Ipswich now, that it was installed there, right? The listening, the attitude, the good playing with, smiling all the time, listening to, discipline, confidence. Hopefully, them 40 minutes that used to come every Friday morning has been taken to that. So it's a rewarding, and that I would like to think that message spreads. Not that every child's going to be in an academy system, but whatever level they play at, them little things for me is the rewarding part of it, and hopefully that's what spreads by word of mouth, that this is why actually installed. Don't worry if your child's not smashing the ball up, okay?
No.
But look, if you're consistent with it, look what comes up on the back end.
Well, you're trying to foster the love, right? And it doesn't matter what you do, football or anything else. If you don't actually love what you're doing, they're not going to carry on with it anyway.
No,
it's only a matter of time. Like, once their parents stop taking them, they're not going to go.
Right?
No. You're trying to foster that love. So, talk to me then about the franchise model and a coach. Like, how would someone get into like coaching? And more than that, what sort of people would you say are like ideal coaches in this environment?
What, franchisees and club owners or the coaches themselves?
Just a bit of both, really. Like, so you can split it up, really. Let's take a club owner that don't coach and then a coach.
So the club owner, it's funny because we do have profiles that we look for, right? So we've got two different profiles. We've got the people that are the family, the couple that are family.
Yeah.
So I've got either young kids or had young kids.
Yeah.
They're great because obviously, first of all, they love kids. Yeah. You'd like to think if they chose to have kids, they'd like kids. And they're all them franchisees that profile have, they're very successful. They're very successful club owners because they've got passion for. My look on it is they've got passion for developing, working with young children and seeing happy kids. Right. Yeah. So that's one profile for the franchise. The other one is what I call the young. I don't know how to say it, Jack the Lad.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
but they've got confidence. They're often the coaches as well, right?
Sure.
Because they are confident. They're bouncy. They've got to love football. So you've got your realm of your 20s, lads in the 20s or girls in the 20s, that are confident, have an interest in football. That's our other profile that we're kind of looking for. So with regards to a coach, it's energy. Like, anyone can be. And I look, people sending CVs. Well, I'm a UEFA A coach or whatever, and I look at him and go, oh, you can get on a chat with him. You're like, Jesus Christ, you might be if all your badges, but realistically, you've got no energy at all. You are never going to inspire any kids or make,
You're also not going to be putting UEFA A.
No, exactly that. We do get the CVs in that tell us this. Anyway, so that we are looking. I don't like the use of this, but an entertainer.
Sure.
An entertainer that loves football.
Yeah.
You have to be an entertainer. I used to come out when I did my sessions knackered, and lost my voice with a headache, because I was giving it my all energy. I was having fun with the kids. I was having fun with the parents. I knew everybody, and it's about that giving the energy. If you come onto the phone and you've got a real good aura about you, then for me you're great. I had a lad that worked for me at 16. We put a message out in an assembly for a school. Yeah. And he was 16. He was just looking for a bit of part-time work. He ended up being the best coach I've ever had, right? And he just he never let you down. He had a great, happy, smiley face. He come in and he assisted me. He was a bit shady at first, like didn't know what, he was moving around, tried to interact. But honestly, after about 6 months, he was the best coach I've ever had.
It's actually, thinking about it, it's actually an ideal first job, if for someone to be an assistant coach or coach, right?
Yeah, of course, because you're socialising. It's not overly stressful. So it's you do learn. You're working with olders as well. For your 16 or 17, you're with and around older people, and you've got the mix of knowing how to work with kids as well. So it's not, being an assistant coach isn't challenging. You just got to have a bit of personality. No,
but the social aspect, right? I think there's always a lot to be said these days about question marks about, I'd say, the youngsters' sort of social skills these days, and that's obviously
been around. That is?
Well, because they're online 24/7.
Yeah, the 30-second TikTok video.
Yeah, that's another question. So, if for instance, someone was interested, Rich, or there's interest either as a franchisee or a parent wanting to go to a class, how would they find out about where the classes are, or a franchisee? Where's that information?
So you jump on babyballers.com.
Yeah.
And then you've got a tab for find a class. So you just type in find a class, just type in your postcode, and then it'll give you a radius of all the closest clubs within. It can do it to 25 miles, 20 miles, 15 miles. And then you just click on that link, and then you can book a trial. A lot of our clubs do free trials, some don't, some do paid trials. It's entirely up to them how they want to do it. And you can just add your child there, and if there's a waiting list, you're on the waiting list, and we'll get you in as soon as possible. From a franchise point of view, we've got a franchising tab on the website. You can give us a call as well, but there's a franchising tab where it's just a bit of information. That email comes through to us, and then the head of recruitment will get in touch and have a chat with you.
Okay. And then I want to digress a little bit. So talk to me about BabyBallers mascot, and then we'll get on to some of your exploits, should we say?
You ain't going to put a picture of me.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
We've got a mascot called Bobby Baller, and he's not based on me. Right. Even though everybody thinks he is, but I am beginning to think, is he my alter ego?
Right.
So yeah, he's
called Bobby Baller.
Bobby Baller. I did the marathon dressed as him this year, stupidly. I am considering maybe doing it next year because I probably could get a space for a charity.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's a little dude. I read a book about him. Obviously, you've mentioned it. He's a little guy that is basically the moral of the story is he's got a dream. Dad doesn't really like football, and he basically has this dream that he gets a leaflet through school and he wants to the winner gets to play at Wembley. Dad's like telling him rugby's a proper game, why do you want to play that, putting it down. He ends up basically living his dream, and he gets to play at Wembley, and you don't really need to buy the book now. So
is that did you say you got a new book coming out soon?
Yeah, so I did the first one and it went really well. It sold a lot, and I didn't put any marketing really behind it. We sold quite a number of them. And then I got a lot of feedback saying, well, my little one wants to know what's going to happen in the second book now. So I was like, yeah, good point. So I've written the second's done. Yeah. The third is going to be done as of the end of in 2 weeks' time. So once I've done that, we've got a page being built on the website where it's literally going to be a book, and then there's going to be campaigns going out on it. Hopefully Bobby will get into schools. Bobby and a few other of his mates, Bobby, Bella, Barney, Bouncer, Brianna. They'll all get into
all the bees.
He lives his dream. But hopefully it's a little inspiration message behind the book that basically if you're a kid and you've got a dream, don't let anyone put you down, mate. Really, don't let anybody sway you from what you want.
I think that's a great message in football, in life.
Yeah.
So
Eze is a great example of that, right?
Exactly that, mate. But going back to the marathon, so did you said you run it in costume?
Yeah, I run it as Bobby, 7-foot mascot, mate. It was, in fact, I might have seen a mate on the 18th mile who might have let Bobby have a swig of his Guinness, mate.
I've got some pictures that I can maybe share. But was that for charity, Rich?
Yeah, I did it for a Chance for Childhood.
Yeah.
We raised about 1,700, just under $2,000 it was. So pretty pleased with that. I am considering they've invited me out to Rwanda to run the marathon over there. For next year. I'm considering doing that dressed as him, which could be interesting. He wants to do a few challenges, but at the minute I'm spinning lots of plates, so I'm kind of put it on hold at the moment. The dream with him, I've got lots of dreams, right? So my brain is quite busy. But the dream for him is I'd love to make him an animation, right? Sure. There's no cartoon out there that is around football, right? There's nothing out there, and I can't get my head around why. Like you've got your Peppa Pigs, you've got your Bob the Builders, you've got all these characters, but nothing stemmed around a little like football for toddlers. So quite like the idea of doing something like that, but I think that is a project for the future.
Yeah. And you touched on a future product, project. So before we go, you spoke about this messy play project. So when would you see this coming?
What for the crawling to walking ages? We're hoping to launch in January.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's real basic basic stuff, and it's an introduction to, again, a introduction to a football, but we've got balls with different like feeling, different shape balls, and in a smaller environment, and it's real basic stuff. But hopefully it's a nice little knock-on effect from that to the BabyBallers group, so crawling to walking. Yeah.
And just one thing, obviously, for any listeners that don't know, I've been captivated by BabyBallers myself, trying to do more things around sport and football. So I've actually purchased a franchise myself, be running that in Epping. And one of I've been watching a few classes this week. One of the things that gets me, and obviously it's very, I'd say, current right now, is there's just as many like girls and mums taking their children. Do you think that have you seen a sharp increase in that?
Yeah,
because
we get a lot of
the classes that I've been to. There's just as many girls.
Yeah. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. And when I started, I have to say, when I first did my first club, we made me have 2-3 girls.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing on the registers a lot more, which is superb, right? Because again, even if they get to 5 and they don't love football, they are doing.
100%.
No one's worried about the environment. It's all boys now. Like, we can't go there. Yeah. It's like, let's do that. Let's get them there. And I think that's great, because we are, as parents, we're challenging ourselves with all the stresses out there to go and do more with them, and I think it's superb. So yeah, there is a massive increase in girls playing football, and that's testament to the Lionesses, right?
Yeah,
really.
Well, it was like when you obviously you see the amount of girls playing. I went to watch Betty play football on Sunday. 2 pitches next to him with girls, but like seeing it at this younger age group is really has obviously had a positive knock-on effect, because, as I say, the classes that I've been to, 50% are girls. But as I say, my overarching feeling of the classes I watch is just how happy the kids are.
Yeah.
Like it's not about the football. It is about all those other transferable skills, and trying to teach them sort of like skills as well as football. But the overriding thought every time I've come out, it's like, the kids going have just been so happy.
Yeah, happy.
A massive smile on the face, and I just think it's good grounding, right? Get them out, get them active, get them with a ball as early as possible.
Yeah.
Exactly
that. That's exactly what it's about, mate. It's about getting out, doing, and doing as much as you can with them at that age, and hopefully they reap the benefits from it.
100%, mate. So, some great conversation, mate. Some good digressions about football, and maybe you've got my mind ticking about some panels we could have on some of those discussions. But really appreciate your time, mate. I think anything that gets kids as early as possible involved in sport is a really good thing. Obviously, I've seen it firsthand. I think BabyBallers is great. Really appreciate your time. Before we go, one last sentence.
You didn't prepare me for this one.
No. Or give me a motto that you live by, or the company lives by. Doesn't have to be football related at all.
I don't know if it's a motto, mate. I would ask like parents to challenge the challenges that are out there at the moment, and you can only do that by being active. So get out, do as much as you can. That's what I want to do. Do as much as you can with your kids.
That's what I would say. Outside is free.
Exactly that.
Cheers, mate. All the best, yeah.